Have you ever found yourself missing someone who hurt you? Staying in a relationship that made you feel small, but you felt terrified to leave? Have you ever said to yourself, "But I love them," while silently breaking? Well, let's get real honest. What many of us were taught to call love was actually survival. And if that sentence hits a nerve, this episode is for you. Because today, we're not just talking about healing. We're talking about unlearning the love that was really a trauma response. Let's start with something nobody tells you. Not everything that feels like love is actually love. When you grow up in chaos, inconsistency, or emotional neglect, your nervous system adapts. You start to associate intensity with connection. You confuse anxiety for excitement. You believe that love has to hurt a little, or it's not real. You cling to the highs, tolerate the lows, and call it passion. But let's be clear, love is not supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. It's not supposed to leave you questioning your worth. It's not supposed to feel like chasing, proving, or bleeding. When love gets wired into your nervous system through abandonment, manipulation, or conditional affection, you don't learn what love is. You learn what survival looks like when you're desperate not to be alone. Many of us didn't grow up with healthy models of love. We grew up with parents or caregivers who were emotionally unavailable, dismissive, volatile, or inconsistent. So what did we do? We became what they needed. We shrunk ourselves to stay safe, called it loyalty, obedience, even maturity. But it wasn't love, it was survival. Let's ask yourself, what behaviors did you learn to earn love? People-pleasing, silence, hyper-independence. Here's where it gets tricky. Your trauma bond will often feel like home. Not because it's safe, but because it's familiar. And the nervous system doesn't seek what's healthy. It seeks what it knows. That's why you may feel magnetically pulled to people who are inconsistent, avoidant, or emotionally unavailable. You chase their love because deep down, it mirrors your earliest relationships. But just because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's fate. You can choose something different. It's not a soulmate, that's a survival loop. Trauma bonds are often confused for fate. You mistake the push-pull dynamic for chemistry. You confuse control for protection. You stay even when it hurts, because you fear what leaving means about your worth. But here's the hard truth. Your nervous system is replaying an old story. And until you interrupt that pattern, you'll keep mistaking pain for passion. Ask yourself, have you ever stayed in a relationship that felt emotionally unsafe? Because part of you was terrified to be alone? Let's talk about emotional manipulation. When you were told, "I'm only doing this because I love you." When affection was withdrawn as punishment. When your needs were labeled too much. You learned that love is conditional. That connection depends on compliance. That your emotions are a burden. In those environments, you didn't learn love, you learned compliance. You taught yourself to minimize your feelings, rationalize the harm, and gaslight your own instincts. This isn't just psychology. This is survival biology. 8. Your brain learns to silence the inner alarms just to keep the attachment. Because for a child, losing attachment feels like death. And so, as an adult, you keep the pattern alive. You tolerate mistreatment just to feel connection. You believe love has to be earned, not received. You equate pain with depth. Love that requires you to disappear is not love. Ask yourself, what have you called love that actually required you to betray yourself? Now, let's talk about healing. Healing begins the moment you tell the truth. What I thought was love was survival. And in that truth, something powerful happens. You start to unhook love from fear. You start to feel the difference between being chosen and being chased. You realize that love doesn't have to feel like constant anxiety. This is the unlearning process. It's slow. It's painful. But it's sacred. You begin to notice who drains your energy, who makes you question your reality, who leaves you feeling not good enough. You learn to pause before repeating the old story. You build safety inside yourself so you don't see chaos outside yourself. You start to understand that peace is not boring, it's healing. You stop mistaking silence for disconnection. You start seeing that love can be safe, calm, and steady, and still be deeply fulfilling. Ask yourself, what is one way you're learning to love yourself differently than how you were loved? Let's define real love. Love is not possession. Love is not control. Love is not obsession. Real love says, I see you. I respect your boundaries. I want you to grow, even if it means growing away from me. Love is built, not begged for. It doesn't ask you to sacrifice your identity. It doesn't punish you for having needs. It doesn't require you to bleed so someone else feels whole. Let's make this plain. Real love doesn't sound like, why are you so sensitive? It sounds like, I'm here. I want to understand. If someone makes you feel like you're hard to love, they're not loving you. They're controlling you. You're not hard to love. You're just conditioned to think love only comes through performance. Ask yourself, what does love look like when it's not attached to fear, guilt, or sacrifice? Here's the most radical act of recovery. Becoming the love you never received. That means you speak to yourself with kindness. You hold your own boundaries. No longer chase those who breadcrumb you. Stop waiting for closure and give it to yourself. You don't need someone else to rescue you. You are your own rescue. You rewrite the story. Where once you felt powerless, you now feel anchored. Where once you sought validation, you now give yourself permission. Where once you begged to be seen, you now stand fully visible to yourself. This is what healing looks like. It's not perfect. It's not linear. But it's yours. Ask yourself, what would it look like to love yourself the way you always wished someone would? If this resonated with you, don't just watch, begin. Like this video if it helped you connect to your truth. Subscribe for more of this journey. Comment with one thing you've unlearned about love, because somewhere out there, someone needs your voice to feel less alone. You don't need to earn love. You are love, remembering itself. And if you're still here, you're already breaking the cycle.